okay?
Yeah.
Mr. Paul Beardsly is quite a good friend, and what we're going to do is go over his history, and starting early on in Connecticut. We want to talk about his family and find out something, what makes this man up. He was born in 1901 in Roxbury, Connecticut, at the family homestead. If you could tell us a little bit about the early part of your life with your dad and mom and brother and sister.
Well, the kind of interesting thing about that homestead is that my grandfather built that, and he transported the shingles and the brick and stuff that has to be bought 9 miles one way, 18-mile round trip with a pair of oxen and a two-wheel car. And when you go up the hill, you get on the load and load it onto the necks, and when you go down the hill, you get top the hill, you have to load it back and forth.
Adjust the load on the car.
18-mile round trip at 2 miles an hour. I don't know where he got the patience, but they had it back in those days, I guess.
And early on, I understand your father wanted to have purebred stock?
Yeah, well, I think maybe we should go back to my father hired out to his father for $200 a year. And his father said, Nate, this is a rainy day, we can't do much on the farm. Why don't you get into a little gig? Now back in those days, if you weren't going anywhere, if you're going alone, they had a two-wheel gig that was easier on the horse, and if you're going a long distance. So he got in this little gig and came back, and he made $200 that day. Probably never did again.
In one day,
in one day.
$200.
Just cow trading, you got to be a little, I guess you got to be a little shifty to be a good cow trader, you know. You don't have to be dishonest, but anyway. So they put a bottle of booze on one end of the table and a jug of hard cider on the other end, and 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, he'd bought a 200-acre farm, 40 acres of woodland, a silica quarry. Now that's white stone. There is a name for it, but that they make paint out of. And he quarried it and got something out of it. And a real good set of buildings, framed with white oak, and livestock, full, I don't know, 30, 40 head of livestock for $5,000.
Now this is your dad got this from his father
For $5,000.
to stay on and work the farm.
Since then, just the house, you know, if you figure the house was worth a quarter, $5,000, I guess would be $1,250 would be a quarter thing. And the house sold for almost $224,000, which was quite a lot more than. I haven't figured the mathematics out of it.
This is in Roxbury, Connecticut?
That's right.
I understand some famous people bought some other Beardsly homes around there.
The house nearest to it was owned by Uncle Leroy Beardsly, and it was it had some. This wasn't a wreck, but that house that Uncle Leroy Beardsly used to live in and own is now owned by Dustin Hoffmann, and that's the nearest home to where I live. And then the people that bought the Beardsly mansion are from New York. They have a business in New York, and I don't know how far. New York seems a long distance from here, but Connecticut, I don't know, quite a few, 75 or 80 miles. And of course, they would come home to Roxbury over the weekend, and I don't think they went back and forth every day, but they did a kind of well, I know the word should use, but it wasn't the smartest thing in the world. They didn't buy land enough around that property to protect themselves. Here they are down and come up from New York, and you don't have much to say what's going on in 3 foot from you over the line, you know. Somebody came in and built a house within less than 100 feet of them. But that's more or less beside the point. But they, of course, the history of, you get
it doesn't get a glare. You might understand a little better why there's so many Beardsly homes in that part of Connecticut from this monumental plaque here. It says, in honor of the memory of William and Mary Beardsly and the other first settlers of Stratford, Connecticut, who landed near this spot in the year 1639, erected by the Beardsly Family Association in July of 1939. Going back to the homestead, this is your grandmother?
That's right.
And her name is?
Margaret. Her maiden name was Margaret Hurd. She was a twin.
And she would have been on your grandfather's original homestead.
Yeah, she was the, they got married a little while after the homestead built, but he didn't get married till he was 42, and Grandma was 31, and they had 5 kids after that.
Well,
yeah.
And then the home that your dad made that deal with his father to have the 200 acres, and
that's the same homestead, of course. Where my father was born and brought up, I don't really know. I feel a little guilty that I don't. It may have been down at the Uncle Leroy's homestead. May have been older, and that might have been his homestead, but I don't know.
So, but the part that your father got and made that deal, once he made $200 in one day,
yeah.
The part that he was cut out and allotted from the major homestead is this house here, isn't it?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
These are homestead where you grew up.
Yes. I was up until lately, I was the last kid to be born in that, because my brother, after my father died, my brother inherited the children, and then the people bought it. I haven't kept in contact, but the people that bought it, when I met them and they took me through their house and were very kind to me, they had 2 little girls like 4 and 6 years old now. This is not, I'm talking about, well, my wife died in '84, and that was since she died. So, well, between '84 and 1901, I was the only kid born in there, which is kind of unusual.
That was, and you had a well, we ought to meet.
Okay.
This is your dad,
Yeah.
Nathan Beardsly.
Yeah. He was became third selectman when he was 21, then second selectman later, then first selectman. He wasn't a politician, but back in those days, I don't think they talked so much politics as somebody that was working for the government, you know. And then he went to the legislature somewhere around 1913 or 14. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's as far back as I know.
This is William and Mary Beardsly.
No, of course I don't know anything about that except the generations that they filled in. But as far as I'm concerned, my great-grandfather, Thompson Beardsly, I never knew much back of that. And he's the one, he was a captain, Captain Nathan Beardsly, which, and he was not, this was not during the war. My son went into service as a lieutenant, and I was hoping, we made a lot of Captain Nathan Beardsly, which wasn't really important. But I was in hope he would come back as a captain, but he didn't like the Army that well. Wonder he didn't get kicked out, I guess it is. But anyway.
There was a lot of land that the Beardsly family owned.
Yeah. it covered a lot of land. As you come down from one of the hills next to Good Hill, and I don't know if that has a name, you look over, you can see, well, at least 1,000 acres just spread out there. Since then, it's been sold to different families, you know, because, well, my dad's the only one that went into farming, so, and 200 acres out of that 1,000 was owned by a lot of different people, you know, miners and on and on and on.
So your father had been in the farming business for, there'd been several generations.
Yes, yeah.
And his wife was Charlotte.
Yes.
And
Charlotte Peck.
so this is your mom and dad, Charlotte and Nate.
Yes.
And you had an older brother and a younger sister?
You're talking to who?
You had an older brother, Percy?
Oh yeah, sure. 10 years older. Older sister, 5 years older. And she went to the girls' school there at Northfield Seminary, and then came home and got married soon after she came home. She lived in she lived in the house that Marylin Monroe lives in. Mr. Miller, you know, lives in the house that my sister owned. The house I spent a lot of time in when her children were born.
And Marylin Monroe had bought that house at one time?
Yeah, sure, that's right.
So you got Dustin Hoffmann in one area of town and the Beardsly home, and Marylin Monroe had another one.
I say Roxbury became kind of famous, you know, in a sense, but I egotistical enough to say that my brother started it off a little bit, and then Marylin Monroe came in and bought it. And
you mentioned your brother. Now he was famous in that he was with Sergeant York.
Yeah, yeah. Marylin Monroe. My brother was fixing fence up the side of the road one day, and this white Cadillac drove up, and this gal got out and came up and introduced herself, and it was Marylin Monroe. And he invited her down to the house and to meet his wife. And my father was famous for making hard cider. Now, he did it in a sense that he didn't ever want to waste anything. And there was a lot of wild apple trees on the farm. Back in those days, they would plant apple trees along the fence so they didn't take up field room, you know. And so previous to that, Norma Talmadge had made a picture, and she was a she was the last famous, one of the very last famous non-talking stars. And so we had some cider there that we called Norma Talmadge cider. So Marylin Monroe said, what will I have to do to get a barrel of cider named after me? And my brother said, well, you just lay your gloves down on that, and we'll call that the Marylin Monroe cider. And that he and Mr. Miller, they didn't break bread or anything, but Mr. Miller was on a pretty democratic sort of a person. And he and Percy were pretty, you know, friendly.
Okay.
Arces had a farm next to my dad, who was just a mile away. It was a farm, 800 or 1,000 acres. And my father went around, he furnished the hay for those horses. A load of loose hay didn't last 100 horses very long, you know. And there was a Marie White in Roxbury, Connecticut, wrote my dad wrote my sister about that, and she didn't know. So she turned it over to me, and I visited Marie in Roxbury. And she had shown some that she had written up, and I had a picture. Maybe she hasn't known, but it was a Blackie Dilla who had charge of the horses. And she said, well, I wish I had seen this picture before, because I would have used it in my article. But it was one of those things where these, in the wintertime or off-season, the people that were in the circus would come up and visit the farm where the horses were for a place to go. So, and they had horses, and some of these gals that were riding the horses, you know, were in the Barnum and Bailey show. But there were a great group of people. I have a little theory, and people argue with me a little bit, but I say the bigger they are, the better they are. I tell you, real people that have arrived, you know, they're pretty decent. People I have traveling, the social climbers, I've never had much luck with them. I tell them they're very poor, and I've worked for wealthy people, and they've always been very kind to me, and the middle class. But I've been on places where the maids and the people that work in the house, we didn't get along too good sometimes. And talk about social climbing. I don't know. I placed quite a few boys that worked for me, and I was out of Kansas City in about 1947, and a friend of mine, Rolly Pierce, from Virginia, said to me, Paul, when my man got through milking last night, he came and said to my wife he was all done. No notice, not much when you got cows that need milking. Well, I'd had a bit of reputation of placing boys. I placed a boy in Michigan, and one in Oregon, and one in the University of Washington the same year. And I said, Rolly, we was having our annual meeting, and you live a whole year to kind of go to the annual meeting, and I had been a part of some delegates, so forth. But I said, I'll do a little telephoning, and when the meeting is over, maybe I'll have something. So I called in New York State. I don't know how I located him, but I got a hold of Jimmy King that came over from England. He was real outstanding, milking Charlotte, better than most of. He was born and brought up with him in the old country there. I got a hold of Jimmy, and I said, what are you up to? He said, I just lost my job. I don't know whether he got fired or he didn't have I knew he didn't have a very good job. You know, one of these kind of jobs here doesn't have much of a future, you can tell people. So I said, well, I told him about this, and I said, Rolly's coming back. He'll be back here in a year or two, so if you save near that phone, we'll call back, and you know, you can get two strangers together, but they got to talk to do the business. And when they got through, Jimmy took a plane from wherever he was into Virginia and milked those cows. That was of all the people that I had helped. And it's quite a help to get a person that wants a job and a person that wants some help. And you get them together, and it's kind of a double duty situation. Number one. Number two, if the association works out, well, that works out pretty good too. Yeah, I placed, well, I was at Mary's restaurant waiting to, and this lady said something about Michigan, and I said, well, I had a friend in Detroit, and she's, and what's her name? And I said, Bob Smith. She said, Bob Smith, we just came from there. He's my son, he's my brother-in-law. Two strangers, you know. And but anyway, he stayed there. Well, there again, Paul Travis I just met once. He called me up and he got this, and he wanted to know if I knew somebody, and I said yeah. And he's out in the barn. I called him in. They got together. And he took the job. I'm getting I'm kind of running around a little, missing the point.
It's important to get those associations.
Yeah, that's right.
To know who knows their work, and to place them in a place where they can do a good job.
Yeah, this boy that let's see. Well, another one was, and I got the book I lent you. The man that wrote the book called me up, and he said, "I'm leaving the University of Mass. I'm going to the University of Washington. I need a young graduate." He wanted a young fellow to bring up. You know, he didn't want some older fellow. I said, "Hold on," and I went out and I said, I can't even, Indian boy, I never can remember his name offhand, but anyway, they got together and he said, "I'm going to leave in a day or two. I'm going to stop off at the Chicago International Livestock Show, which is the biggest show in the world at the time. The Prince of Wales even brought animals to it. And if I had my druthers, I wish he was with me." And I said, "Well, you can have your druthers because he can leave right now." And he asked me how come, and I said, "Well, I got men out in the field can come in." And Leonard Vanderhoek was his name. I guess, well, that's an English, a typical Indian name, I don't know. But so he went out and then and worked at the university, and then he got a job on a big place and ended up in California, and now he lives in one of those islands down on the Cape. And I got in touch with his father, and I'm still trying to get in touch with Leonard. He's not a young man anymore either, you know. But it was a nice associate, real nice guy. He went through the Second World War, and he was a pretty husky fellow, maybe weighed 170 or 80 pounds, young fellow, and in a prison camp and all. He came out of the war with 130. But he went out of his way to pay me a visit, and I hope we could get together sometime, but I don't know, it was a little hard to make his father understand quite what was up to him. I don't know, maybe he didn't believe me anyway, but Leonard and I would get along. So we may sometime. That's quite unusual country down there. You don't think of Indians, you know, being teachers, but some his aunts were teachers in the Boston school system. So they, some of those Indian people did all right.
Did you get it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Something that
This is your father, Nate's farm.
Beardsly,
Nate
that's
Beardsly.
right. Before, this is, see, excuse me, the cattle that my grandfather wasn't purebred minded then, and I don't know as anybody. This purebred business isn't forever either, you know. These breed associations aren't terribly old, and they may be old in the old country back, but it's on. It can cause quite a turmoil getting in from one to the other. When I took my job in Princeton, I went to register some lambs. Come to find out their mothers weren't registered, and come to find out their mother's mother came over from England through Canada, and they hadn't been transferred. So I got 2 generations to register the lambs here. I got to register the mothers and transfers the grandmothers, and
That way it keeps the
takes
line.
a little doing.
Shows the line.
And the man I replaced, one of the best farmers, one of the best friends I ever had. But unless you've been brought up in the business like I was, that kind of thing is almost impossible unless you know the ropes.
It was your father that he decided to have a purebred herd.
But these white-faced cattle, I read a little history of that bull, but they called him Captain Jack, big Hereford bull, weighed 2,500, and he kept track of that. He sent 40 pair of oxen, white faces, to not in 1 year, you know, over a period of time, all sired by Captain Jack, and he. The Herefords are bigger than the Devons, so he brought the size up. But getting into the purebreds was yeah. Well, my dad was he a little ahead of the times. I think he cleared the farm up from brush, and moved a lot of walls, and did a lot of things.
You ended up helping him on that, didn't you?
Oh yes.
Yeah. And when you were 7, was it 1908?
That's right.
That you started showing
That's right.
cattle. Yeah. And that was the beginning of a lot of showing cattle, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Wait, there we go.
I'm going back about this same age.
When you started working for your father.
Well, we see. The calves. Part of the ox business is to have them broken to drive. And I've yoked up a pair of calves that were 3 days old, and you can't start much younger than that.
Yeah.
But it was back in the days when you didn't have strikes on a farm like you have. The kids did what they were capable of doing, and the grandparents did what they were capable of doing, and the people in the prime of life did all the heavy work. But that's the nice thing about a farm, that everybody helped produce, you know. And about that age, my dad, there's a field that's got to be covered with manure this year. And I'd come in at night and write it down. I think it got up to about 300 loads, and probably not much bigger than a wheelbarrow, you know. But that was the beginning. You see, what was so important, that by the time these animals were a year old, they were broken as well as they'll ever be, you know. And I've got some pictures somewhere, I don't know if I'm ever going to find them, but where I would go in at a fair and they'd have a competition of trained animals. And this older man would come in with a pair of oxen, and I would come in with a little pair of steers and a little bitty boy, and win in competition of trained animals. Well,
yeah. You'd work with them.
Yeah, the whole thing worked out so well, you know. We trained them. If somebody, he generally didn't sell them till they're older, but if he had more of one age and they wanted a pair of yearling steers, they were broken. And most people don't know how to break them in well anyway, you know. It is people don't realize you drive a pair of horses, you've got control on them. You take a person that never drove a well-broken pair of horses out in the field somewhere, but animals, the only control you have is the whip, and not one pair, but 3 pair, and at that age and younger probably, I'd go down the field and pick up 3 pair of oxen, 2 or 3 or 4 years old, and bring them up, bring together, put down the barrels, drive them through, and they stayed there. You know, they were broken to stay. they knew better to wander off because they'd slap their wrist, you know.
When you got older now,
Yeah,
now in that time it would have been when you sold cattle or you moved them,
yeah.
you'd have to move quite a few oxen over the road.
Oh, yeah.
How many oxen would you
Well,
move?
we somewhere around 15 pair in a yoke and 10 loose cattle, that would be the females and the calves, when we went to the fair. And we left Roxbury, Connecticut one time, went into Danbury, 22 miles, and stayed over. I went to Lincolndale, which was a Catholic school, was on exhibition there, and stayed a week. Went down to Mount Kisco and stayed a week.
How fast would you go over the road?
About 2 miles an hour.
2 miles an hour.
Yeah, we left Savin Rock, New Haven one time.
This is walking the cattle.
Walking the cattle.
Right.